Good day to you. Today I want to enter into a discussion about how kids become greater than parents. When they are approaching 12, they begin to want to explore their territory and beyond their present territory. Up to 12, kids begin to agree or whatever parents supply them, they are happy for it and they manage with that sense of adequacy. But wise parents will understand that when the kids are passing the age of 12, that they need to feel that they ought to be exploring their boundaries, their possibilities and their potential. And every parent, especially the dad, must be ready to help the child to explore, navigate beyond what he has been doing. So you set up a next step, next stretch, next spring for the soaring. Like the eagle, the child wants to experience. Attempt, experiment and see. So make those attempts and experiments safe under your tutelage. Otherwise, passing 14, peers will tell them to get on to risk experiments because that's what the digitization does. You will still encourage your son and daughter to think top-down regulation rather than get digitized and move into bottom-up regulation. Bottom-up regulation is via amygdala, the risk behavior, seek for thrill and peril, and to make anything dangerous or experiment with danger. That's not how we want our children to grow. We want them to have a sense of exploration, investigation, and increasing their boundary, increasing their potential and possibilities with your help, with your guidance. So you must get this. You must get ready for this because that day will come. They will want to know more. And they will keep asking questions, and you don't have to be an expert to answer all the questions. But you must have an attitude of openness to be able to enhance their knowledge seeking and experience within safe boundaries. So at the age of 12, the child must not feel poor or unaccomplished. A child may be good in studies like mathematics, some are good in languages, some are good in art, entertainment and music, some are good in hand skills. So you have to put the child into certain hand skills, get the child to help in the household chores as well as a little bit of electricity and that kind of thing. So you need to do puzzles, board games, carom, table tennis, whatever you can to keep that child's edge of sharpening, edge of seeking beyond. You be a partner with your dad. Mom also can, but children look especially for the dad to be there. Partner in good crime, you know what I mean? In the things that they would love to do and they hear it from their peers, their friends. So before they get into dangerous territory, provide for them safe travel in exploring. So at age 12, if they don't get into this, or let me put it positively, at age 12 when they get into this kind of exercise and adventure, by the time they are 16 and completing the O-level examination, they have achieved their best potential for the present years, which becomes a good incentive, a stimulus for their next years to choose what they will do beyond O-level. If they are mediocre and not stretched to full potential at the age of 16, then they will get on to other muddles, procrastination, experiments, changing courses, and you keep spending, they keep changing courses, and very quickly they will say, send us to another country because this country is useless. Now don't wait till that happens, because we believe God our Father in heaven, the Good Shepherd, He has given every child a generous giving. And a child's development is, this generous giving must become a complete gift. That is James 1:17, with the help of the Father of light, from whom downloads every blessing and every good gift. And when the kid is developing the generous giving he had from you and from God into a completed gift, he becomes one who's able to help others, sister and brother, with a little bit of tuition, help in the subject. So that benefactor nature, being able to help out of your gift, is good character development at every age. So this is the track I am suggesting for the child who is between 12 to 17. And dad, mom, you can do it, you can plan for it from home. So if they don't move into this track, they feel poor or poorly treated, unaccomplished, and they may even start blaming you and looking for others who may help them in the wrong direction. So that is one danger. Second thing is, if they are unable to stretch themselves up and improve themselves, they feel a little broken-hearted. They feel hurt first, then they feel humiliation that others are getting ahead of them and nothing is being done for them also to be on the same trajectory. So broken-hearted is a more difficult thing to attend on than disappointment. Thirdly, they become bound by certain thought patterns or behaviors, and they slavishly do the same thing without attempting anything more. So what I am emphasizing is that from 12 to 17, that you provide the foundation for greatness, exploration for greatness that your son and daughter are seeking. Of course, they'll get on with their school studies, some will move on to sports. So it's always good to have every brain tract in good development. So the first brain tract is empathic, intuitive. How do I think about myself? Second brain tract is empathic, relational. How have I made relationships? What do I think about others? So they must not think themselves inferior. They should not think of them as superior. They should be thinking of themselves valuable contributors, and for that you need to develop your child's contributing potential quite early. So we are looking at the 12 to 17 stretch because that's the critical stretch that determines later life brilliance. So by the time they are finishing O-level, in this stretch of time, in the years, they should have achieved their full potential. So the third track is a language track. So I have always told this, if you give them the digital screen early in life, their language muddles up. Relationships as well as brain tracks develop better for other things with language development. Do your best to get them to keep handwriting in vogue. Though they are in online studies, they ought to be taking down notes and keep the reading habit going as much as possible. I have written 5 books for parents to read with kids that covers science, apologetics, historicity of the Bible, evolution, creation, controversy, all seated together with your kid, and knowledge available in the book which you can easily assimilate and help your son and daughter to assimilate. If you look at the Proverbs, they were often Solomon writing from memory under inspiration what Dad David spoke to him, keeping him on his knees. David had quite a few blunders in his married life, but with Solomon, his special son, he decided to get it right. So, though he was king, he took time with Solomon. That's how Proverbs have come, as a combination of Solomon's wisdom plus what his dad David told him from his young days. So we see it from the fact that Solomon says, I was the only child of my mother. So that gives an indicator he was Bathsheba's son, and David was attending on him from early years. So we have discussed these 3 tracks: empathic, intuitive, how I think about myself; empathic, relational, how I think about others and relate to others; then the language track that helps develop all other tracks. Then the 4th track is management, mathematical, planning tract. This you have to develop from their younger days. That's why we give puzzles, building blocks when they are very small. But by the time they're 12, they are planning their family outing, and you tell them to do their planning and get stuff into the vehicle, you involve them in their planning. And then, of course, other things daily, getting the books ready, filling the school bag the night before without getting up in the morning and shouting at them. All this goes for a good expectation and a good development and confidence, which is what Dad is about, a 3A rating, like the Fitch rating, affirmation, accreditation, and approval. Approval comes last because that is you, according to what he did, you give him credit and merit. And you always speak the language of improvement and don't speak the language of you got it wrong. You say, darling, you can do this better. That's the language that they best respond to. That's the language with which you ought to be speaking to your son and daughter. The fifth tract is the kinesthetic tract, which gets all agitated if the child is too much on the digital screen. I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis. I have done extensive research and talks on this subject. So if you need any clip on the specific subject, please send me a WhatsApp to 074 211 5011. If you are from overseas, please send me WhatsApp to +94 74 211 5011. So if the child is too much on the digital screen, he gets too kinesthetic, jittery. Then if you take them to a doctor, they diagnose ADHD and put the child on many kinds of drugs. So we have developed an empathic motor therapy system, which thesis I have presented to the Sri Lanka Medical Association. It's available in our Empathic Learning Center, free of cost. All you have to do is send a WhatsApp and check on any child who may benefit from that kind of therapy, I call it, because it's medically valid, without getting the brain into some more chemicalization with all kinds of drugs. That's, by the way, to attend on the digital issue that becomes relevant, very relevant, between the ages of 12 and 17. Then, of course, the other two tracks are the auditory and the visual. Just in passing, I must mention that listening to music and studying does not work. You study from your prefrontal cortex, and music stimulates your temporal lobe. So you have to study without music. They will tell you, when I listen to music with the earphones in my ear, I sit in one place longer. That is true, but they are not studying. It's not going into memory. But if they can play an instrument early and you put the child into an instrument, stringed instruments are better for brain building, brain tract building. Keyboard is also okay. And then singing himself or herself and playing an instrument is the best way to develop brain tracts through singing and music. But when you are studying, perfect stillness, and don't study with LED light, study with a CFL warm glow, because LED lights emanate blue frequency and that obstructs memory, recall, collation, connection. Where your child is studying, do not keep LED lights. I have done these descriptions in detail in other clips. This is in passing about developing your child's best potential between the ages of 12 and 17. So let him not feel poor. Let him not feel broken. Thirdly, let him not get into addictive habits and get enslaved into the digital screen or any other thing. Fourthly, let him not become a prisoner of his thoughts, and his limitations and what others teach him. So let his world always expand with constructive games. Digital games will make him a prisoner to the digital games. He will stunt his creative ability. This happens with AI and ChatGPT. Don't get children to use it because they lose their God-given creativity. So that's a quick advice on that matter. Then, if they have things about which they are sorrowful, please bring it to the light and speak to them about the sorrows they carry in their heart. Amygdala child is the one who's playing into sorrows, reminiscing and regurgitating sorrows all the time. So get those hurts and sorrows out. So this is a good season to tell your child about the cross, that all our sorrows the Lord Jesus Christ took on the cross. When a child is into crying easily, attend on it, because that child will go to the bottom-up regulation tract of amygdala. It's called bottom-up because amygdala sits at the bottom of the brain, just above your palate, and it'll always have the hippocampus and hypothalamus redoing the last bad thing, last sad thing, last thrilling thing, last addictive thing, like the post-traumatic stress disorder. So you have to pick up the child who's an amygdala child, who's sensitive, usually musical, very compassionate. So provide for their avenues for their compassion. Don't shut them down. They'll want to give to beggars on the road and so on. Recognize that child also. So by this time, we would have understood children can become, if the empathic intuitive tract is stronger, in fact a little too strong compared to the empathic relational tract, they will be introvert and they will be happy with themselves, by themselves. So when relatives come or your friends come, don't say, come out, what is the meaning of this? Don't shut yourself in your room, because they prefer to shut themselves in their room. You have to encourage them, never coax them, never insult them, because they are empathic, intuitive, strong children. They think inside them. Then the empathic relational child, when that child develops that overmuch in a sense, he will be always want to be with others and often with outsiders. So you have to recognize that and manage that child also. Then the linguistic kids love to write, love to sing, love to recite, and in class they should put up their hand for everything, that they want to participate. So remember how the brain tracts have developed will show up the personality of the child, which needs to be managed carefully. So those are the things I wanted to encourage dad and mom with, especially dad taking the role when there's mistake management is due. Sit down, choose the best time, which is usually after dinner, and every meal time is very precious. No screen at meal time. Dad, that applies to you also. Every meal time is special kids time, with oxytocin being secreted for bonhomie and communication, with serotonin satisfaction and GABA empathy. And when the child is going to sleep, about to fall asleep, sleepiness is coming, that is the work of GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. That's the time they want to put out their secrets and what went wrong. Hang around a little at that time with the kid, but before that, do that family time for the kid. What you like to do with him or her as an extra stretch for that day. Dad always plans something specially that you will do for your daughter and your son. Remember, mom is always doing special things with the things she cooks. You also can try that if they would eat it, if they could eat it. But you can also find some activities like reading the book. My 5 books are based on different Bible stories. First one is Genesis chapters 1 to 10, all the scientific evidence of what God has done. Second book is on David's 50 sling stones, little 50 passages about David. They are short passages. You can read it with your kid in, let's say, 7 minutes and ask some questions. So you are teaching them spiritual life as well as good intellectual stuff. Third book is on parables, fish and loaves, I have called it. That goes through many parables in the Bible, contemporizing it for present use. Fourth book is wisdom, wonder of wisdom, different aspects of proverbs that are applicable to your family life, kids' life. Fifth book is called Rags to Riches, such stories from the Bible. Yes, David, Gideon, there are so many stories. So there are stories of encouragement. Also, they help our children to understand underprivileged children. So there is a little scope that a father can practice, whether the father is a very busy doctor or a lawyer or a businessman or whatever. So the emphasis today was how father gets involved in the expansion of the child between 12 to 17. Single mothers, you must not despair. You can do all this. You can do all this and try to find an uncle who can be a male figure, who can be a good influence to a growing kid between 12 and 17. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Remember, if you want any more clips on this subject, spirituality or reason, send a WhatsApp to 074 211 5011. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis.